Canadian Open Vault. Tell me what's coming next. Because was Hardcore Logo? What's been
Yes.
since?
The last one was Hardcore Logo, which we did a sort of extended, a limited run of. Canadian Open Vault is it's the year-round version of a program we started at the festival a number of years back, more than 10 years. And what we do is we show classic Canadian films or key Canadian films, sometimes in restored copies, sometimes in new versions, or not new versions, but transferred to HD or whatever. We're doing two this summer, both in July. Terrance Odette's Heater, which was his debut feature. He's made a number of films, a number of like quite beautiful films. Sleeping Dogs was the last one, and one of my favorite Toronto films, a film called Saint Monica. Heater was shot in, it's from 1999. It was shot in Winnipeg, and it focuses on two characters. One played by Gary Farmer, who's kind of, for various reasons, he's unable to cash some government checks he's supposed to get, and he's kind of been kicked out of his place, and he's homeless in December in Winnipeg, which isn't a healthy thing.
That's horrible.
Yeah, and then there's a homeless fellow he meets who's unnamed, played by Stephen Ouimet, who's a well-known Canadian actor and a frequent performer at Stratford. He has a plan to get money by selling a space heater that he's kind of been carting around. It's unclear how he got the space heater, like he found it or he had it or whatever. It's likely that he kind of stole it or it was dropped or something like that. And they go through these various sort of schemes to try and raise money and find a place to stay overnight. And they're consistently kind of turned away, shunted out. There's some very touching scenes where some pretty heartbreaking scenes when Gary Farmer's character gets kicked out of the boarding house he's staying in. He's basically really only got a closet. He's not even in a proper room. And the way the relationship between the Ouimet and the Farmer characters, the way that relationship grows, is also quite touching. Terry's rather quite heavily influenced by the sort of Italian neo-realist school, and I think the recent Iranian cinema, like people like Abbas Kiarostami. It's a very kind of realist, very beautifully observed film, and we're showing it in a new. It's been transferred to HD, so we're. Actually, no, I think we're showing a release print, so it's kind of an archival thing. But the print is actually in splendid condition, so we're kind of. I'm looking forward to that, and we'll have Terry, the director and the writer, and Stephen Ouimet at the screening on July 16th. And the second feature we're showing is on July 26th, and it's Ron Mann's feature film or fiction film, Listen to the City, which was from 1984. It's his only feature-length fiction film. He's best known as a documentary filmmaker. In fact, one of the key documentary filmmakers in Canada, especially English Canada, and not just in Canada, but around the world. I mean, he made a number of very key films. His first film, I think, is still one of my favorite music docs. Imagine the Sound. It's often cited as one of the best documentaries about jazz. He followed that up with a documentary about poets, centered around a performance that was a number of performances, but one event that happened in Toronto. And it has people like Jim Carroll, Charles Bukowski, Michael McClure. It goes from sort of traditional poets to beat poets to people who kind of do an early version of rap. I think Jane Cortez is in it. Sound poets. And then he also made, of course, Comic Book Confidential, which is one of the key things about comic book artists, one of the key films about comic book artists. And Ron was a very key figure, seminal figure for the Toronto New Wave, which sprang up in the late 1980s. Listen to the City was his, as I said, was his first fiction feature film. It has a number of really cameos by very cool people, including Jim Carroll. He plays one of the key figures in it, one of the key characters. PJ Souls, who people would know from Stripes. and Rock and Roll High School, the Ramones movie, and Carrie. She was in a lot of key films from like the late '70s to the mid to late '80s. Um, she plays a kind of crusading journalist. Jim Carroll plays a poet who's sort of been unleashed and just kind of leaves he's been hospitalized, and he just kind of wanders out of the hospital and kind of wanders around Toronto trying to make sense of what's going on. It's kind of a countercultural riff off of what's happening in the film. Is there's the largest employer in the city is shutting down its factory, which will leave a large portion of the city unemployed. And it's about the civic governments, the municipal governments inaction around it, the workers' attempts to deal with their impending unemployment. Sandy Horn, actually from The Spoons, plays the main female character, and she's a musician who's trying to, who's struggling with her art, and her father's going to be laid off. He's one of the workers who's going to be laid off. Sky Gilbert plays a sort of mysterious financier who kind of offers the workers this kind of what looks like a sweet deal, so that they can buy the factory and run it themselves. It's I mean, to me, for one thing, the film hasn't been seen a lot recently. It's fairly rare that there's a screening of it. It reminds. Well, I think one of the reasons why this is good timing is that it really does remind me kind of the Occupy movement, the labor movement that starts in response to what's going on. There's lots of really smart countercultural satire of how the civic. How the government tries to deal with the issues. The health minister is a heinous chain smoker. There's lots of very funny stuff like that. Often set in these kind of boardrooms that look rather imposingly like an '80s installation art piece. But it's a very cool movie, and I'm looking forward to seeing how people react to it. And Ron and Sandy should be in attendance for the screening.
Thank you very much. You always give me homework when I speak to you because I'm inspired to go find out more. So thank you very much.
Thank you.